Welcome back to today's adventure. This is all welded back together and ready to go. So if you recall, this used to be a giant hole. Let's turn towards the light here so we can see. Don't judge my welds, please. I'm no welder, but that's a piece of plate now, welded on both sides. And because of the adventures with this car here, I added a little something extra to this cradle. I took a piece of what was angle iron and I opened it up a little bit, and then I welded it on the back side of the axle, or the upper control arm tube, and I welded it to the top of the spring pocket there. That's on both sides. That was a nice hot weld that penetrated really good. There's a little bit of a repair here. But now this thing should be solid, even more so than it was. I was just worried because I was hammering so hard to get the upper control arm bolts out of this cradle. I was worried that maybe I fractured something while I was hammering. Well, it took me more than a couple of hours. However, everybody's got a hefty coat of 415 on it. I didn't do the brakes or the dust covers because you can tell the dust covers are basically gone, so I think I'm just going to remove them, but after everything's back on the car. So that is awesome. And then I spent a little bit of time under the hood here, just hitting it up and kind of cleaning and scrubbing off some of the grime and undercoat that's been on there for years and years, just to freshen it up a little. There's a lot of spots that are missing paint, so I'm not going to go very far with it. Like, this is not getting body work, so it's really just a visual thing and kind of freshen it up and clean it up so it's easier and nicer to work on when that happens. So I think tomorrow is going to be assembling and installing this fella. My paint's been sitting overnight. Everything's dried up. This paint is crazy sticky. Look how it's legit stuck to the table there, so that's awesome. Anyways, yeah, they're all stuck a little bit. Let's slap this in the car. Start with the lowers and the cross member, assemble those on the ground, and then we'll lift them up, get them in place, get the uppers in position, and so on and so on and so on. Grease the bolts real good, and we'll make this thing fly. Well, I did a super condensed version of the reinstall of the cradle there, but it is now ready to accept an engine. Mounts are in, everything's snugged up and tight. Yeah, there's nothing else that I have to do to the body of the car at this point now, except roll it out of the way, get it outside, and make some room to work in here, because there's not enough space to tear that thing down and work efficiently. So this car will come out, I'll do like a heavy cleanup. All right, today is the day to tear it down. Obviously the shenanigans have already begun, and there's a pile of stuff that will eventually go back together, but enjoy this time lapse of the engine getting torn down. Now, here we are with a little bit of an update. So you were watching the montage until the battery died on the camera. But the new rear main is in. Awesome. And the front cover's back on, and hopefully we won't have any more oil leaks. That little gear there gave us a hell of a challenge trying to remove it. It was definitely a little bit stuck. But I think it's getting down to the nitty-gritty now, where it's going to be more cleaning of parts than anything else. And prepping for some paint, some fancy paint. And that is that. It's just about lunchtime. Well, time has passed, and it used to just be a golden nugget. Now it's got a bunch of stuff that hung on it. It's getting there. It's almost at the stage of rolling it back into the barn, but we still have some more stuff to deal with prior to. Let's see. Alright, well, we got the engine back in, the trans is back in. Run into a few snags. The biggest problem here is the alignment now. Apparently the floor is different. Didn't think it was going to be, but the start of the shifter box is back here, so, or the shifter input. So that means that my floor actually has to get cut up to back this area. The simple solution is to take that shifter console out, the welded steel, and take the one from the four-door, put it in this car. Still got to attach exhaust, fuel line, coolant, rad hoses. Sure, there's other stuff there. I'm just going to try to get some of the loose ends tied up today. So the engine mounts, and see if I can't get the radiator landed. Kind of the low-hanging fruit like that. And the last thing I think I'm going to really dive into to deal with is likely going to be the floor issue with the fitment of the manual console shift there. Well, we're finally reaching that milestone where we get to start it up for the first time after the soft rebuild. I have coolant in it, and I know I'll have to top that up once it starts circulating. And I've got engine oil in it. I think the carb is going to be drained of fuel because it was upside down, but we can definitely get it pumped up once we crank it over. Cool, let's see how this goes.